Greetings. Welcome to Ikhambi, Natural Healing. It's Menzi Maseko with Nelly, Nkosi, and Wanga, Hygiene. I'm going to have to be corrected on that. For her full name, I want her to give us her full name when she comes through. But she is with us today. Her full name in all the languages that her names come in all their glory. So today, again, this is the last session where we are speaking about sacred union. Sacred union is the theme, but sexual health is really the subject matter that we are going to be dwelling in. How important sexual health is, a holistic health for the African men and the African woman. And of course, anyone else who wishes to take this advice, they are very, very much welcome. Ikhambi is welcoming to all different cultures and people from various backgrounds, but we operate from a very African perspective in everything that we do. You will note that we use the African cosmology, which is based on Kemetic or ancient Egyptian calendar. So right now we are just about to enter the what do they call it? Tehuti, the month or the season of Tehuti, the great scribe, the wordsmith, the intellect. But we are coming from we are doing the session within the month of Het Heru, who is the great goddess of beauty, motherhood, sensuality, dance, music, and all things joyful. So we are cultivating those natural aspects within us that exude the spirit of the great ancient goddess Het Heru. So welcome to it. So we begin our sessions with a healer's pledge. Before we introduce our guests, before we go deeply into the topic, we start with the healer's pledge, and we start with the meditation, which is a very quick one, a breathing meditation, and then we read together the healer's pledge. So the meditation is very simple. Today I've got my legs crossed, or one leg crossed. Usually I just sit straight, but just be comfortable in whatever position you are at, whether you are walking with your phone and listening, or whether you are sitting down or lying down. Just relax and let your shoulders drop and relax. Breathe freely. And then take a deep breath. Fill up your cavities, fill up your chest and tummy, and breathe out. You breathe in again. And we allow and welcome our great ancestors and the great creator, the creator mother, the creator father to be with us in this session. We breathe out. As we breathe in again, we ask our bodies and all our faculties to be attentive to all the elements. Breathe in the life-giving force into your body. Think of the significance of breath, life-giving force of breath, and then we breathe out through our lips up. Take one deep breath again. We hold the breath, and we center ourselves into this space, and we hold this space as a sacred. We relax and allow ourselves to be and feel at home, basically. Please feel at home. Ikhambi Natural Healing is the home of every single individual who believes that our health is in our hands. Our health, our holistic health is in our hands, basically. if you are responsible for the well-being of your family and the well-being of yourself and the well-being of society. And then you can unmute your mics so that we can together recite the healers, which is the code of conduct for the group Natural Healing, Ikhambi, the cure. So we recite like this. Everyone says after me, Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi, are healers.
We owe our gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creators.
We owe our gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creators.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, and Ubuntu.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will neither insult, nor dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing.
We will share, practice, and promote natural healing and raise awareness about natural healing.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting
negative information.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehoods.
We will refrain from posting negative information and falsehoods.
Negative information and falsehoods.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
We will give back to nature what she has abundantly given us.
We will give back to nature what she has abundantly given to us.
Ashe, Samako. The house is open. Let us speak about our sacred union and honor Heteru and speak about sexual health. Nkosi and Mahanyani are gonna do their thing. And my face is gonna disappear now. I'm going to make a smoothie and burn my incense. Both the cannabis and the other one.
Thank you, Nkulu.
No secrets.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Nelly Nkosi, and today I am not alone. I am joined by Wanga, who is our special guest today. I'd firstly like to thank Brother Menzi for leading us through the breathing meditation, as well as through the healer's pledge. Thank you so much. We give thanks, blessed. So I would like to, I would just want to allow Wanga to introduce herself, because I almost feel like I would be doing her an injustice, if I introduce her. But, first, I just wanted to just introduce herself and take us through her journey as to when she met this calling of healing, because we are all healers, but we all are awakened at different stages of our lives. And therefore, I just want to give her an opportunity to just take us through.
Thank you for having me, Gogo. I'm Wanga for short. And if you want the whole name, then it's Wanga Panyanga Nantambwe Hanyani. And it's a very long name. But I am the founder of Women Wellness. I am particularly very passionate about women's health. I think that is my gift, I think that is my purpose. Having been through a lot of health issues myself as a woman, woman-related health issues, I feel this was a path that was carved out for me, help women. So it didn't start as like a, there it is, that's what you're supposed to do. It was a series of events, a series of health issues, a series of, spiritual insight for me to get here. So in short, that's what I do. I help women heal. I teach you how to heal. And one thing that you'll see if you follow me is I like to call my women wise women, because women naturally are healers. They are givers of life. And once they learn how to tap into that energy, the creative energy within themselves, I think they are very capable of healing themselves. And so I'm just going to facilitate.
I like that. I like that. Mkhulu Menzi alluded to the fact that he wanted to understand the meaning behind your names. Can you please briefly touch on that?
Okay, what my name?
Yes.
Okay, so Wanga for short means mine. I guess one of my parents decided that this one's mine, and I'm going to say probably that was my dad. I'm also named after my great grandmother, and it's about my full name, Wanga Pajanga, means basically to be carefree, to be very authentic to self, that regardless of the trends or whatever you're saying, whatever you do, I am my own person and I am not bothered by the surroundings or especially the negative energy. I am of self and of authentic nature. So yeah.
It's quite beautiful. Like when you understand the deeper meaning behind it, it's so beautiful. Like, wow. They really thought things through when they named you. But it's funny, I'm actually sensing that we are all connected as Africans, because when you say Wanga means mine, I'm actually thinking of Invenda, it means Ndiwanga, it means it's mine, I'm not Venda, probably I butchered how I said it, but I know when they say that Ndiwanga, it's meant she's mine, it's mine, And so it's interesting how our languages, like, they're interconnected, and like even in Zulu, Owami, it like Wanga probably in Zulu would be Owami, and they also sound a bit similar.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what we normally preach, is that be careful of canceling things, because you might just end up canceling yourself in the process. We are all interconnected, interrelated. We are all part of the same family. I just wanted to remind people that this is not a live session, and we will not be posting it on our YouTube page, simply because we are trying to abide by Mark's rules. Just now they will take the entire page down because we all know how that works, the community rules of Facebook. So we will not be posting this session on Facebook, but it will be available on our YouTube page. So back to the business of the day, why we are here. Yes, so for the whole month, we have been discussing sacred unions, particularly concentrating on one aspect that is included or encompassed when you speak of sacred union. We also speak of sexuality and sensuality, because, hey, sometimes we confuse things and we think that sexuality and sensuality is the same thing, but it's not. It's not. So as we progress today, we will touch deeper into it. So Wang, I just wanted to first, just to introduce everybody to the topic of the day, I just wanted to, what is sexual health? When we say sexual health, to you, what pops into your mind?
Okay, well, sexual health, I think would be doing it a disservice if we just say sexual health is something on its own. We have to look at the whole context. What is health? Health is being in balance, in alignment, and at ease with oneself in all aspects of your being. And that's the same thing with sexual health. You can't be, for example, if there is a different health problem that you have, you're not going to be at your sexual peak if you're sick. It might be maybe as asthma, but you're not in that moment, you're not going to be at your sexual peak when you're just trying to breathe, right? So we can't isolate sexual health from overall health and well-being. And in that regard, I think sexual health in the same breath is just being in alignment and being with your true authentic self, understanding what that is. If that
Just give me a second. I think I have something wrong with my screen for now. Just give me a second.
Okay.
So I understand so why do you think it's important for us to understand what sexual health is? Like for a person, like a lay person like me, like, oh, okay, sexual health. I'm not currently sexually active. But at the same time, now when we say sexual health is like holistic towards your entire well-being, why would it be important for a person to maintain good sexual health?
Okay, well, if, for example, let's use the example of pornography, right? It is still a sexual issue of pornography, but at its core, pornography is a pain thing, just like drugs, overindulgence in drugs and alcohol, it's a pain thing. And if you're not dealing with the actual root of your problem, one of the ways that you express that insecurity or that pain will be things that people like to indulge in, like sex, like drugs, right? We're so right now, people, we're making light of Mjolo, but at its very core, it's a very, I believe personally, and from what I'm seeing, it's a very sexually debilitating concept for us to be making light of it, because, for example, that one of the simplest things that Mjolo can do is cause vaginismus, which is literally the closing up of the vagina if you're in relationships where you are being exploited sexually or not being honored sexually. Even health issues, diabetes or high blood pressure, etc., those things look so far distant from sexual health but can directly affect your sexual health. So it's so important for you to understand your sexual patterns and say, is this a healthy sexual pattern or is not? Is my sexual deviation, what is the true cause of that? Or me not being able to enjoy sex, or me feeling very vulnerable and uncomfortable in sex? What is the cause of that? And then you're able to heal that, and then you can heal and actually experience good sexual health.
It's interesting that you said can you please say it again?
Vaginismus.
Vaginismus. And this is what is commonly known as the princess syndrome. Am I correct?
I haven't heard that term before, actually. What's that?
So the princess syndrome is when your vagina closes up and penetration becomes very painful. So they call it the princess syndrome because you remember that back in the olden days, princesses said like it was perceived. It was perceived that their vaginas are different from everybody else's vaginas, and therefore they are much tighter, they are much whatever. So I'm not sure the actual history, but they refer to that as the princess syndrome, when your vagina closes up and it doesn't, then penetration becomes very painful. But before we get into that, I just wanted us to unpack some of the historical reasons as to why people have in sexual health that you may think have contributed to people that not having like a good sexual health lifestyle, like not taking care of that aspect of themselves. Okay.
Firstly, let's start in the home. The dynamics that people grew up with. It's said over and over that a young boy will learn how to love by what they see their mother go through, or show them, not tell them, but show them what they see their mother go through, and vice versa for young girls. for with their fathers. So if a young boy is growing up in a home where father is to a mother, that is what he understands showing love and affection is, no matter how traumatizing it is. Children are a clean slate, and to them that is okay, that is acceptable. And when they go into relationships, subconsciously they will seek out those same relationships where they can either execute the same violence or receive that type of violence. Same thing for girls. So even if you have a present mother and father, but the dynamics are off, you're going to see that play out, especially sexual aggression, because at the end of the day, when we food, alcohol, sex, those are things that can, light up the pleasure spots in our brain. So those are the things that people end up gravitating towards in terms of expressing pain or suppressed feelings of any sort. Also, just single parent households where the masculine and feminine energy is unbalanced. There's an absence of a certain energy, be it masculine or feminine. Children are growing up where there is either a father wound or a mother wound that they don't know how to identify, and then will end up going into unhealthy sexual patterns because they don't understand where the balance or how to balance it, because they never saw it happen or never experienced the balance of masculine and feminine energy. So those are some of the things. The other thing is, I'm going to probably get a little flack on this one, but the feminist movement. I always give the example of if you've got two jugs and you've got a tap with running water, one jug is already full and the other jug is half. To fill the jug that is half full, I don't need to empty the full jug. I can just take the half jug and use the tap and fill up that jug. And what I mean is, with the feminist movement, to a certain extent, I believe it's coming with the emasculation of men, especially our Black men. And we don't need to break them down in order for us to rise. We don't need to do that. And I feel that to a certain extent, especially when we take concepts that are not of African belief systems and then want to impose that on us, we have to consider the context. Because as much as our society's honored women, we also honored men in a different way. And we can achieve, gender equality, we can achieve gender equity without emasculating our men and keeping them at the level of honor that they deserve. And I think that there's nothing quite destabilizing for a man to feel unneeded, unwanted, unable to provide for. I think that is very destabilizing for a man. And when we are pushing certain agendas and which end up emasculating men, I think that breaks them down, and they can then look for other ways to express their manhood. I think part of our gender-based violence and rape, etc., is probably coming from where men are feeling emasculated and feel like this is the one place I can express myself as a man, and I will impose it for you to remember that I am a man. So we need to consider some of those things. I've already talked about pornography, that it's, for the majority, I don't think it's a sexual problem, it's a pain problem, it's escapism, where you're masking or not understanding the traumas you've experienced, or traumas even on a collective level that, certain generations have experienced, that now we're turning to pornography and causing sexual problems with ourselves. Because, in pornography, how things happen in pornography is not how things really happen in sexual life. Like, you don't just walk into an office and, take somebody over the table and, that's it. That's not how it goes. But when we indulge in those things, we are reconditioning our mind about what sexuality is and sensuality is. And then we think that, men start to feel entitled over women's bodies, and women feel a need to act a certain way to be pleasurable or to be receivable as feminine. So those are some of the things. And of course, diet is a very major factor right now. And there are also medications, like, for example, hormonal contraceptives can affect your sexual health, antidepressants as well, steroid steroid medications or steroids that maybe people may be using for physical fitness, but also, you know, steroid creams. One thing that I freak out a little bit when I'm working one-on-one with women and they were prescribed maybe a steroid cream, you know, for skin like Accutane, etc. That is one of the things that freaks me out a bit because it can affect their sexual health. So in short, those are some of the things that affect sexual health historically and currently.
You know, I like how you broke it down, because you touched on a lot of relationships or sacred unions rather, as you were breaking down on some of the causes of not taking care of, or not being in a good standing with our sexual health, you know. And you first touched on the mother-father sacred union, and then you touched on the parent-child sacred union, and then you also further touched on the family sacred union, and then you also touched on the sacred union in terms of the community, because that is also a sacred union in terms of how we perceive the masculine and the feminine energy, and how over the years we've emasculated the masculine energy, or the male person, because masculine energy doesn't only exist within males. Over the years we've grown to learn that. How we've emasculated the male within our community. And you've also touched on the sacred union that you have with self, you know, in terms of your overall body, as well as your spiritual aspect, and how you treat others, when you spoke of, in terms of your worldviews as well, when you spoke of the whole feminism movement. And within, it's funny because when we look at our traditions and where we come from, the females have always held a sacred space within the community as being the keepers of the knowledge. And if you want to educate an entire community, you first educate the ones that actually bring up these humans into a full adult stage, you know, and because that's where most of the knowledge gets transferred from the mother to child, even through our DNAs and you know, because education starts through the transfer of DNA right down to the things that we teach our children as well. It's quite interesting that you would say that. And I like the fact that you touched on the cancel culture. And I think us as a community, we need to start speaking of corrective culture, as opposed to canceling people out. As we have always preached within this platform, is that be careful of canceling people out, because you might, or canceling things out, because you might end up canceling yourself in the process.
And just like, one thing. Okay, go ahead.
No, you can continue. I just wanted to add Mkhulu Menzi's comments. She says much of
I just forgot one point
yes.
In terms of some of the things that we're losing in terms of sexual health, is the loss of the rites of passage practices that we had. I will speak specifically for my culture, that there's rites of passage for boys and for girls. And I think I also mentioned this last time when I was on, is that there were rites of passage that were at every stage, every crucial stage as you grow and develop as a young man or a young woman. And one of the things that were, for example, for men, at a young man, is one of the rites of passage was sexual health. You teach a man how to look after himself, hygiene, you know, how to have good sex and how to please your woman. It wasn't just about, you know, how you can just go be the best in bed. It was also about how do you go please your soon-to-be wife. Similarly for women as well, though, the rites of passage of sexual hygiene, you know, sexual practices, and how to also get the best out of it. It's not just about you going to please a man, but how do you also please yourself during the act of sex? And all those things have been unfortunately waning, and we're losing a lot of that culture and that heritage in the bid to be developing, be seen as developing countries or developing cultures, which I think is very sad. We can develop without losing our true core and our true essence and beliefs and rights. So that's
I
a,
like
that's a
that.
very important one.
In our efforts to become civilized, we've actually become uncivilized as we've
Absolutely.
lost some of the great knowledge that was passed through by our ancestors from generation to generation. So I just wanted to add Menzi's comment, and he said that much of the GBV may emanate from the way African men are feeling emasculated and are feeling emasculated, and the outlet is violence.
Oh, no. I'm highlighting what she said.
Hello?
So sorry, I'm saying I'm highlighting what she said. It's not my words. In my chats, I'm only highlighting what she's saying.
Oh, okay. Okay. No. Okay. Please, thanks for clarifying that, Nkulu. Do we have any questions at this stage before we get carried away, before me and Wanga get carried away? Okay, I don't think we have any questions at this stage. When we speak of reclaiming your sexual health, to you, what does that mean?
I think we talked a little bit about this before we got on sexuality, sensuality. I'll first start and separate the two, because we can get those mixed out, and especially if we're on social media where, those two are very much confused and we don't get the true essence of the two. So sexuality is, I think, is the more, for lack of a better word, the more superficial, higher level of things, the more physical aspect of it, right? It's more about, it's the definable part. It's the part where we can redefine, reconstruct it. We can choose to identify one way or the other. That's the sexuality part. Sorry, Gogo, can you hear me? I think I've lost.
No.
Okay.
I'm still here.
I thought I was talking to myself for a second.
No, I'm still here.
So I think it's the part that is more flexible. You can be sexual without being sensual. With sensuality, it's more about the deeper connection. It's more about understanding the spiritual aspect of sex. It's not what we may see portrayed as like, a warm, sultry voice, seductive eyes, and it's yes, it can be expressed that way, but that is not truly sensuality. I think people who are able to express and experience and practice sensuality are people who are very self-aware. You can be very sexual without being self-aware. And that is why we see sexually deviant behaviors, because you can be a very sexual person without actually being sensual. Sensuality is, when you're self-aware, you're also picky about the energies you want to unite with, because it's a sacred union. Before anything is physical, it is first spiritual. And that is where the sensuality stems from. When you understand that what you're connecting with is first spiritual before you enjoy the physical aspect of it. And so people who are self-aware and who can practice sensuality are very picky about the energies they want to unite with sacredly. At the primal level, sex is creative, right? It's about recreation. And when you are having sex with somebody, you're first creating something spiritually before you're creating something physically. What you experience physically is the manifestation of the spiritual. And so when you are self-aware, you're also very picky about the sexual relationships that you choose to have, because you understand that I'm creating something spiritually first. Am I willing to then bear out or suffer the consequences of the spiritual union I've had with this person physically? And I haven't seen a person who is who has sexual issues, thrive in life. It consumes others and eventually consumes itself. When you have sexual problems, whether it is rooted in, you know, showing up everywhere, or pornography or anything. I haven't seen people who are thriving very well in life with that. And that is because there is a disconnect between their sexual life and their sensual life, so the spiritual side of sex. And it requires vulnerability to be sensual. Whereas with sexuality, you don't need to be vulnerable. And so there are a lot of people who are having sexual relationships, even in marriage, but don't have sensual relationships with their partners, don't have that sacred sexuality between partnerships, because that vulnerability is not there, that honesty is not there. And it can be obviously from a lot of reasons. If there is infidelity in relationships, if there's mjolo, if there's all those things, you take away, you erode that part. And it takes a lot of self-awareness and vulnerability to be able to connect with somebody on a sensual level and not just on a physically sexual level. So
yeah, you've touched on a lot of like deep concepts. And for me, the one that you've just evoked is when we start separating the actual physical act of sex and the spiritual or the emotional and the sensual aspect of it. You know, for me, I'm just thinking right now that when you spoke, I actually thought of sexual addiction, because when you said if you are there and just concentrating on the physical act on itself, you tend to separate the emotional aspect of it, and then you tend to overindulge and you don't actually consider who you decide to engage with sex with. With that being said, would you say that some of the causes, not that it's the only cause, would you say that some of the causes of having like being a sex addict, because sexual addiction is a reality, and some people, they actually become sex addicts without them actually being aware? You might find that somebody moves from one relationship to the next relationship, to the next, to the next, to the next, without giving themselves time to heal. Is it because of not being self-aware of themselves and not being aligned with the spiritual self, because it all starts with you, the self, you know? Would you say that the disconnect between sensuality and sexuality could be another cause for that?
Absolutely. I think, like I said, when you're self-aware, you're very particular and picky about who you want to connect with on an energy level, on a spiritual level, before you engage sexually, physically. You're very picky and very particular about those energies. You're also very sensitive to energies. You can, start to say, I want to date this person, and then you realize, I'm not feeling the energy of this person, right? But I think sexual addiction is also escapism. It's sexual addiction is basically you're insatiable, right, in a certain way, and it's because what you're looking for you're looking for it in the wrong place. But once you become self-aware, once you understand your sexual traumas or your traumas in childhood or wherever it is, you're able to address the root cause of it, and then you see the addiction falling away. You see the attachments, the unhealthy attachments falling away, because you've addressed the root cause. So wherever we see addiction in every sort, it's escapism. And it takes one really wanting to do the work, really wanting to be honest with themselves, not for a show, not for anyone, but within themselves, to say, I'm not okay. And I need to understand why I have these sexual patterns, why I attract this type of certain person, why why I find violence, enchanting or titillating rather than a very calm man. Why do I want the violent man? Why do I want the aggressive type? To understand your sexual partners, the people you attract will help you understand why you have those sexual urges or lack of sexual urges. So yeah, in the long short.
You know, oh, there's a comment here that I just wanted to bring to your attention. However, before we get to that comment, I just wanted to close this aspect of when we speak about sexual addiction, to close this aspect. You know, when you're addicted to cocaine, you're told you need to stop using cocaine. When you're addicted to cigarettes, you stop using cigarettes. And then, however, when you're addicted to sex, similarly to like things like your food, when you have a food addiction, those are things that you can't stop doing. You know, it's not possible. How would you then, like, it becomes, I don't know, it becomes a bit tricky in terms of then reestablishing a healthy relationship with food or with sex, you know, because it's not something that you can say, oh, I can just cut it out and I'm not going to do it. Like you would with the cigarettes. What's your
like
take on
you can discard cigarettes and stop smoking. You can discard alcohol and stop drinking. But with sex, at some point, you're still going to have it. And how do you make it a healthy? I think it's first you have to, again, being self-aware and coming to find fulfillment within yourself. Can you find fulfillment within yourself? Can you see yourself as a sensual being and not a sexual being? Because sensuality is not about the orgasm. It's not about the climax. Sensuality is a full body experience, a spiritual experience as well. And you have to first start there. And this is where now we get into tantric sex. You know, it's not about reaching the end. It's about understanding the journey, letting it unfold within yourself, and understanding how your body responds to certain triggers, whether physical or non-physical. How do I respond when this happens? How do I respond in this season? How do I respond to certain environments? Because anything can trigger, especially if you're a sexual addict, anything can trigger. It can be, you know, people who have maybe sexual addiction and regarding children, you know, being in places where there are children, that can be a trigger for them. So to understand why is the trigger, is it a child wound that you have? And you work with that. So firstly, you need to understand, I think, where your triggers are, and then let that unfold and help understand your where you can work in terms of that. You can't stop the sex, but you can stop the triggers. So understand the triggers first.
And you know, as you answered that question, it actually brings us to Lulu's comment, as well as the next segment, where I wanted us to start discussing things that we can incorporate within our daily life. So this is probably a question that will lead to that. So Lulu said, I have the same problem of being aroused, but when me and my partner want to get intimate, I don't enjoy it at all. Maybe for me, it's because of my womb problems or spiritual challenges.
Okay, that's normal. You can say, for example, you are out and about and your partner touches you some way, and then now you feel excited. But when you're at home, it's like, don't touch me, right? What was it about that environment? Was it a validation thing? Is it that you were turned on because you wanted people to see that there's intimacy between you and your partner, whereas when you're in the home, nobody's there to see, so there's no need to act. There's no need to show. You need to understand why is it you are turned on in certain instances, times, events, and spaces, but when the actual act comes, is it just about the buildup? Do you just get off on the build, but being touched by this person or being touched in a certain way, does it trigger a certain memory that blocks, especially if you've experienced sexual abuse as a child, if you've experienced sexual abuse in relationships, or even physical abuse, maybe, or not even abuse, for example, being to a gynecologist. You know, gynecologists will, you know, feel up and check everything. Then maybe if your partner does it, it's not pleasurable for you because it brings up the memory of a gynecologist examining you. So there may be spiritual aspects of why you're experiencing that, Lulu. There may also be some maybe trauma that you need to pick up on. And trauma doesn't always mean a bad thing. It may just mean an intense reaction or intense experience that you had that kind of your mind doesn't want to go there because it has buried it. So there may be womb problems, maybe it's a pain issue, try a different approach, maybe work your way up to the moment, see if you get more pleasure, because you can have an orgasm without penetration too. So figure it out, where exactly is it going wrong, and what is happening in that moment. Is it the way you're being touched? Is it are you remembering the pain from a past penetration experience? Figure that part out. And you're welcome to get in touch if you need more help with that.
You know, Lulu's comment actually reminded me of a story that a friend of mine while I was in varsity shared with me, and they said that they've never reached an orgasm. Like when you speak about an orgasm, this is something that is quite foreign to them. They don't even know how it actually feels like. And at that time, so I thought it was just unique to her, you know, and as the years progressed, I actually realized that a lot of women actually, there's a lot of, quite a significant percentage of women who don't actually experience an orgasm. And how she explained it to me is that she actually enjoys the foreplay, the build up, and even when it's not like it's just the two of them and they're being intimate in their private space, and she actually enjoys the build up, the foreplay, and but when it comes to the actual deed itself, you know, when it comes to the actual penetration, and she kind of doesn't see the point, you know, she enjoys the foreplay even more than the actual penetration or the actual intercourse with the partner, and to the point that she's never experienced an orgasm. She doesn't see it, and hence the actual penetration, she just sees it as something for the man to enjoy.
Which I mean is unfortunate, because it's probably one of the best things that any woman can experience. The thing is that when it comes to where, like, for example, because, you know, with women, we do need that buildup. We're not just gonna, and we're ready to go, right? Like men, we need that buildup. And when you find that you're finding more pleasure in the buildup than the actual act, it's probably got to do with not the person sometimes, you know, but it's probably about you. And this is where I think I'm very sad that we lose those rights of passage, because you're really taught how to enjoy sex and how to find your orgasm. I mean, yes, your partner needs to know what they're doing as well, but all those things, the sexual positions that you're taught, it's for you, it's for your pleasure, so that you can reach that, you know, the peak, right? But one thing that I have seen with some of the women that I have had consultations with is that those who are more likely to enjoy just the buildup than the actual penetration has to do with even sometimes the father wound or the mother wound, even if they grew up in an environment where there was no, you know, hugging and no cuddles from a parent, just that reassurance. They seek it in a partner, and that's why they're enjoying the hugs, the cuddling, the touching from their partner, and don't care about the rest, because what they just need is that intimacy of holding and touching, and, you know, that security of being held. You
know, Lulu just added another comment, and she said she actually enjoys the build up more than the actual penetration, and she says that it could be that it's memories from him forcing her to have sex with him, and always wanting them to have sex.
There you go. Because you have to be in the mood.
Menzi had his hand up. Yes, true. Because it's more of an emotional thing. Menzi, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. thanks for these insights. But I'm finding, I think Ululu, first of all, before I say my comment, I think Ululu has given us the answer, or given herself the answer to her question, basically. I think Wanga was already touching on it about the memory. Wanga was kind of, at the same time, showing us that trauma does not necessarily have to be a real traumatic experience, but it is emerging here that it is possibly a traumatic experience where you are separate. Okay, let me put it this way. We are reading, and this is no attack on anyone, but Lulu needs to understand that even with the statistics that we get out there, we know that a lot of sexual violence is happening within relationships, right? This sometimes it's not always a wise thing to advise people to leave the relationship. No, there is always a way to work it out, but sometimes there isn't, right? So for me, my advice to Lulu would be a confrontation. A confrontation is sit down. I was going to give a different advice. I was going to talk about meditation. I was going to talk about different ways and ask Wanga for a little bit of advice about the womb itself, about the place of the womb during the sexual act. Because sometimes we place the womb only as a birth issue, but what is the womb's place in the sexual act itself? How far can a man go to touch the womb itself? We can always talk about the clitoris, talk about various, the labia and all different parts of the vagina. But when it comes to the womb, there's a sexual part, but there's also the creative part, right? But just to focus again on Lulu, as I said already, I was going to say, cultivate within yourself a way of confronting the situation, confronting the source of your trauma so that you can enjoy sex with the very same partner. But it emerges here that you cannot do it alone. I think we already said it. I think Nkosi was saying it already, that this thing is both of the sisters are saying it, that it's a union. We are talking here about sacred union. It's your partner. Either you are in love with each other or you are married to each other, you're intimate with each other in some way. There is no other way besides confronting. If he won't come to the party won't happen. Exactly. He's not the center of he's not the heart of the party. You're not the heart of the party. Together, you must make the party happen. But if it doesn't come through, then we need to start considering other interventions. But the main intervention here, you can't just work on yourself and the person who's been doing, maybe he has stopped forcing now. Now he wants to be more intimate, but maybe he has not confronted the fact that he used to be forceful. An apology maybe is needed here, and not just an apology, but a transformation. And I believe in people. People always say people don't change. I believe totally that people can change, because I've seen it happen. I've helped other brothers change. I've helped myself transform from one part of different addictions to a different level, right? So I just wanted to say that. But originally, I was going to actually even read, I'll do this later. Hopefully, Nkosi, please remind me. I want to refocus, when you sisters have finished talking, I want to refocus on this, on the divine power, the spiritual part, how to actually do this thing in a spiritual way. But it's very important to first look at the womb itself, look at the physiological part and the partnership part. That's what I wanted to say. That's why I raised my hand. I hope I made sense.
Very much sense. Very much sense. Lulu, definitely, consider what Nkulu has said. And it is, with women especially, words are very important for us. So to be able to communicate to a partner and say, this, and this, because men don't really understand that when you force your partner to have sex, they're actually doing themselves a disservice, because the less we enjoy it, the drier we are, the more uncomfortable we are, the more we just like, just do it and get over and done with it, and then the less she enjoys it, the less you're going to enjoy it, because part of, the enjoying of the act is seeing your partner enjoying, like, oh, okay, I've got this, I'm doing this. And if you're just seeing a blank face, or you're seeing somebody who's uncomfortable, in pain, or possibly even crying, you're doing yourself the disservice, because she's not even physically receptive of you. She's not physically, ready for you. There's no lubrication, there's dryness, and you end up bruising each other. So there definitely has to be conversation. There definitely has to be conversation to say, you know what, this happens, I feel this way, and this is what I need from you. And I will get into it when we start talking about, how to improve sex life or just sexual health on a personal and on a physical level. I'm seeing some of your comments come in, Lulu. I think there definitely is a lot of work to be done there, to be able to have consensual, not in terms of forcing, but consensual in, are we on the same emotional level? Are we feeling this both the same way? Because if one is feeling forced and one is forcing, you're not going to have the same sexual outcome. One is feeling traumatized and one is feeling possibly egotistical.
You know what I like? I'm just going back to what Mkulu said. What you're saying is quite deep. But I wanted us to go back in terms of what Mkulu said. You once described a womb in the earlier sessions that we had with you, the womb as being a portal, and the violation of that portal can lead to an intense emotional scarring, spiritual scarring, because can you please remind us in terms of what that actually means? Because some of us may be new to this platform, and yeah.
Okay, so I had mentioned the last time that I was here that our womb is, as women, this is our creative center. And not just creative of, the physical life of bearing a child, but it is our creative center. This is the place where we bring the spiritual back into the physical. And even when you're not well within your womb, your creativity as a woman, whether it is in business or in career, education, whatever it is you're doing, is a little bit, stunted, because your core, your essence is not, in balance. And that can be from trauma, whether physical, sexual, verbal trauma, even as well. You'll see that with women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, that the womb trauma is more has to do with part of verbal, being told, oh, you're so boyish, and you're so that your brain and the memory of your womb starts to carry that. Even miscarriages, loss of a child, you will find that if you've ever had a miscarriage, if you had a very traumatic birth experience, that the period that you experience around that month when you had a miscarriage, abortion, traumatic birth, you will find that the period is always a little bit off, either heavy or painful or just, a little bit crazy, because your womb carries trauma. And your womb doesn't necessarily have to carry sexual trauma. It can carry, like I said, verbal trauma as well, and any trauma that or intense experience that you may have experienced at some point in life. And so it's so important as women to be very protective of that space by sanitizing your environment. What are the things that you're listening to? What are the things that you are taking in that talk about you as a woman? Be very protective. And I use this, we're talking about, Pogoto and all of that. Then we ask why we're accepting this gender-based violence. Is because we're telling women they're stones. That's how then do we want men to see us as the gentle, as soft, as vulnerable, strong, but vulnerable, being able to express ourselves that I'm not okay, to be able to say I need a break, to be able to go to work and say, you know what, as a woman today, my energy is off and I just need to go home. When we keep saying we're stones, hit us, we're stones, it doesn't work that way. We can't be having a bipolar description of ourselves. We have to be very, very deliberate in the way that we express ourselves as women and allow people to define us as women as well. So yeah, that plays a way in which our womb will express itself. If you are telling yourself that, I'm not a sexual being. If you don't see yourself as a sexual being, as a woman, you're not going to enjoy sex. Your womb will just be like, you know what, I'm just going to sit in the back and just kind of close off to everything, and fertility will be one of the things because you don't see yourself as a sexual being. Again, I'll get into that when we start talking about improving your sexual health, but I hope I answered your question.
You know, we always remind people here at Ikhambi that our words are hekau, which translating, it means our words are magic. So everything that comes out of your mouth is a manifestation, and it's a good thing that you also remind us today that you can't say that, yeah, I am a stone, and therefore you expect to be treated in a gentle, or yes, that's when you actually people throw stones around, you know, and they don't treat. And I think there was a time and a place where we actually needed to be that, but in 2021, as we have this conversation, I think we maybe need to reevaluate some of the terms that we actually use to refer to ourselves as women, and I think that could also be a starting point. But another aspect that you spoke of was the issue of stunted growth, and things that would actually affect women in terms of their own emotional growth, the sensual growth and sexual growth. Would you say that the same thing would happen I'm not sure if you're able to answer this question, but would you say that the same thing actually happens to the males? Stunted growth.
Oh yes. For example, boys don't cry. Don't cry. You're a man. Suck it up. How else are they going to express that aggression or energy or intense emotion? Drugs, sex, alcohol, overindulgence in food. So we're stunting the emotional part. And remember, at a very primal level, our physical bodies always look for homeostasis, balance. So anytime there's imbalance anywhere, the body will compensate elsewhere. And it's the same thing for our emotional state, our mental state, our spiritual state. If there is a part that is lacking and a part where there is too much of something, the balance will always look. And it's the same thing for men. Teaching men to just be in touch with their emotional side will do so much for their sexual side, because again, when it comes to actual sensuality, sacred sexuality, vulnerability is important. Being vulnerable within yourself and with your partner is important. And if men and boys have never been taught how to be vulnerable with their emotions, still show strength, but to be vulnerable and be able to say, I'm not okay, or this happened and I feel this way, how then do you expect them to express that in sex when they don't even know how to express it on a simple level of communication of words? So that does stunt part of their sexual development as well.
Yeah, that is, yeah. That is when, as we raise our young boys to become men, I usually say, I refrain from calling, I have like a mini boys club, a soccer team here. So I refrain from calling them boys, and I'm raising young men, men actually, I'm raising men. Because when you say I'm raising children, they will grow up to become children. I'm raising men. Yeah. So for me, it's important that we become intentional when we raise the men as women, because most of the nurturing comes from women, although there are some men who are very, very involved. And I think it's quite important that they actually become men, you know, men become more involved, men become more involved in the whole nurturing process, when we say we raise.
It's the language use as well, because you'll find that when it comes to men, as in small men, kids, that you'll hear, like, for example, if I say it in my language, mamuna ndimwana, like, you know, a man is a child, and you're excusing their behavior by saying that they're children, therefore you're not holding them accountable. It's those languages that they grow up with that mentality, like, I can get away with this because they say I'm a child. So I can get away with that behavior, and then that's where you also find that imbalance in the male and female roles in marriage, where we say, oh, girls develop quicker, so you expect girls to do things, you expect them to be ahead, you expect them to take over things, you expect them to be the stone, and then men can just be pulled around and swayed, and they can deviate and go off on their own and do something, and then you just don't hold them accountable. All of that, it comes back to the language we use. It comes back to the things that we say about young men, and we say about young women. We have to take accountability. We have to correct those cultural issues that we have had for a long time.
Wow. Can you please share with us on some of the aspects that we can incorporate in our daily lives to reclaim our sexual health, reclaiming our sexual health?
Okay, so I've alluded obviously to some of them over and over. Self-awareness is important. If you are having sexual issues, if you're having a hard time even just, getting sexually charged, if you're having, just any sexual debility, all of that awareness, and, digging in deep and finding out what's going on within yourself. Why are you ending up with this? Just same way with any addict. What is it that you're escaping from that you're indulging in this, for example, or you're also running away from sex because something is not right? So self-awareness is first and foremost. I think Menzi probably will come with more on that, on how, the spiritual side and self-awareness, practicing self-awareness. And then, being honest with yourself, being honest with your partner about sexual issues. I think it's so, we can't expect men to just figure it out. We can't expect women to just, follow in line. Like, I'm heated, let's go, everybody. We can't expect that. So there has to be communication, especially for women. Men, if you want to get the best out of it, you have to talk to your woman. You have to woo her. The things that you did when you were first trying to get her are the same things that will get you the best sexual experience. When it comes to diet, obviously eat well. Antioxidants are extremely important when it comes to sexual health. So your berries are very good. Things that are warm and spicy. Cinnamon is very good for sexual health as well. Eat blood nourishing foods. We only limit blood nourishing to people who have anemia, but blood nourishing foods like nettles are very important for sexual health, because it's all about blood flow, right? Not just for men, but for women as well. If you want to intensify your orgasmic experience, you have to nourish the blood. You have to make sure that there's good blood circulation within you. So that brings me to exercise, core exercises, pelvic exercises. I tell my women, twerk, twerk. It brings good blood flow to that area. And I mean, we see twerking has been, sexualized in a whole different way, but that was part of our culture. That's all. I mean, if you look at, is it the Tonga ladies with the, all of that, that's the waist movement. That is very important, not just for the act itself, but the actual orgasmic experience. The hula hoops, men and women, get yourself a hula hoop. The big thing you put around your waist and the kids play with. That brings that good pelvic motion. It brings the circulation to the pelvic area. It's going to help with that. There is this lady, she's called Mayara, and she's got a YouTube channel, Mayara Healing Arts. She gets more into the sacred sexuality and sexual unions and tantric sex as well. She's very good with that, so you can go and check her out. When it comes to building a bond, now this is where we get into sensuality with your partner. First of all, before I can get to that, as yourself, if you're single or you're not single, but you just want to kind of build your sexual confidence, see yourself as a sexual being, is the best thing. What we all like to look into the mirror, stand in front of the mirror, naked, unafraid, vulnerable, in front of yourself, and just examine your body. Start to look for what are your pleasure spots. Understand yourself, discover yourself, affirm yourself, tell yourself the things that you would want someone to tell. Like if you want your partner to say you're sexy, say it to yourself first. Believe it yourself first, because if you don't believe it and someone says it, you're like, oh, I hate just saying that. But believe it yourself first. So create those words for yourself first. And it sounds, very simple. But when you affirm, when you speak words, you're literally rewiring your brain, and your brain starts to form a new reality about yourself or your environment. So you are in charge of creating a healthy sex life for yourself and creating sexual health for yourself. So stand in the mirror, and with a partner, you sit in front of each other and do the breathing exercises, hand to chest of your partner, create those breathing, get in sync with yourself and your partner in terms of breathing. Do the eye gazing just for a minute, just look into each other's eyes, quiet, while you've synced your breathing. That does such great work for when it comes to bonding. It's, you're not even in a sexual way, but you're just sitting there, hand to chest of your partner, and you're breathing and you're gazing at each other. You can do this naked if you want, as well, or you can sit on your partner's lap in a meditative position and do that. That is so good for bonding, especially where there has been disconnect. If you're trying to reconnect with your partner, if you've just had a baby, obviously that's thrown off your dynamics as a couple. You want to do that. If there's a history of cheating or infidelity or whatnot, or sexual deviation of any, and you want to reconnect and rebuild that trust, those are things that you can do. In terms of getting to understand your pleasure spots, getting to understand your stimulus. What are the things that can be done to stimulate you to get more sexual? Is play on your senses, play on sound, find sounds that you can use, condition your brain. It doesn't have to be a sexual sound, but if you find it pleasurable and you want to connect that to your sexuality with your partner, find a sound that it is, there's different frequencies that can elevate your sexual response and heightened sexual experience. There's different frequencies. There's lots on YouTube. You can go and find those colors. Are there particular colors that you want to associate with your sexual experiences? Is it purple, for example? Then if you see your partner putting up something purple on the door, then it's on today, and you're already priming yourself physically, mentally, that I'm about to have a deep, intimate sexual experience with my partner. Senses, again, your skin can lead you to, can do so many things, and all the acupressure points can also do that. So use feathers to find out, what are the places that actually turn you on. Oils, warm oils, scents. I already talked about oil, like essential oils, or even just, the scent of roses. I have that's just simply, it's just salt and roses, and I have this in my bathroom. Put it in your bath water, and that's just simple aromatherapy. Salt is cleansing for you, so you're gonna feel like, I'm ready. I've washed away the day, and I'm ready to just enter into this moment, of sexual expression and enjoyment. And the roses are good for awakening sexual senses as well. So that's your aromatherapy coming in. Cinnamon, you can add cinnamon sticks to your bath. Cinnamon is also warming. It's spicy. It improves the circulation. So heightened sexual experiences. Just play with your senses. Your senses are a good way that will point you to what are your, things that will awaken your sexuality.
It's very interesting that all the aspects that you just touched on are some of the aspects that the Great Mother Heteru actually represents, the divine energy of Heteru.
I'm sorry, what can I interrupt one more? Let me interrupt one more. Sexual hygiene. We don't talk about that enough. Sexual hygiene, please. Be clean. Yes, again, what we see in movies, they just pull each other, and get clean. Even if it kills the mood for a second, just tell your partner, just hold on, let me go freshen up and I'll be back. Just because you're going to be exploring different parts of your body, and you want to be comfortable when, you're being touched in different places, but your partner also wants to be able to breathe well when they're touching and going into different parts of your body. So sexual hygiene, bath together, Clean it. You don't even have to bath together. Let your partner bath you. Just practice, make it part of your ritual. Clean the area you're going to have sex in. Just create an environment for a healthy sexual experience.
And you know what, lack of hygiene can also lead to a lot of infections. I know with the urinary tract is quite a sensitive area, and it's very easy. Lack of hygiene can easily get you infected. You can easily get a urinary tract infection. You can easily get a yeast infection if you if hygiene is not there. It's not just about the pH balance but you can end up getting other infections if you're not healthy. And once you get an infection having sex when you're not healthy down there, it's wow. It's not, it may not only be an uncomfortable experience due to the smell, but it also may be an uncomfortable experience due to the pain that you may potentially be experiencing during that time. As you were explaining on some of the stuff that we can incorporate within our daily lives in order to enhance our sexual health, I was just thinking, as you were naming each and every one of them, that these are some of the elements that the Great Mother Heteru and as well as Oshun, who we have decided to be the feature of the season, is that they're all about dance. They're all about indulging in certain stuff, they're all about music. Yes, music and however, in us indulging, it's also about being responsible in our indulgence. I know that the Great Man, I call it the silly season. I did mention this in the previous sessions. I call it the silly season because this is the only season where you can actually indulge in alcohol and do all this other silly stuff like dance, be happy, and without nobody should judge you during this time, because this is the time where the Great Mother's energy is at its peak, and you can actually harness some of that energy from her to actually be more happy. And a lot of the times we often think of spirituality as just being serious, sitting there and just doing the meditations and whatnot. Sometimes just being happy, it actually helps you be more aligned with your spirit. Yeah, let loose, like relax, just a bit, just relax a bit, and allow yourself to be in that moment and be present within that space. Because sometimes we also forget that the time that you have, the only time that is guaranteed for you is at the present moment, and if you're not happy, you will not be able to raise happy children. You will not be a happy wife. You will not be a happy member in the community, and you cannot be a happy family member as well. So being happy. And I like some of these aspects that you just raised, when you thinking of everything holistically.
And flexibility is key. Did I mention that as well? Be flexible. I saw this meme. It says, "Oh, you can't. What is it? You don't want to stretch in the gym, but somehow you can throw your legs behind your head when you're with somebody's son." And we look and we think, "Oh, I can only be flexible if I'm like, tiny and thin and petite." No, you don't. And ladies, flexibility will help you hit those pleasure spots for yourself. You're not even doing flexibility for your partner. You're practicing flexibility, and yoga is very good for this as well. And just, limbering up your joints and muscles and everything, because as you get into the different positions, you'll find pleasure spots you never knew you had.
Menzi just mentioned something here. He said 90% of African dancers use pelvic motion, from Congo to Ghana to Venda to Nigeria to Jamaica. And it's quite true, eh?
Yeah.
And have you seen the Shona people when they do that? I don't know what the dance is called, but wow.
Yeah, and some of those things are taught in the rites of passage. when I went through it as well, you're taught like waist movement is everything. And people think you're doing it for the man, but when you learn waist movement for you, you will find, you know what position you need to get into for yourself. So those things, but I'm working on it. We need to reinstitute these rites of passage for young women and ladies. So yes, sometime we'll bring it back.
Would you also say how we perceive sex should also change in order to improve our sexual health? Because a lot of the times, if you tell your partner that no, I want it like this, sometimes communication, becomes a big problem for some women. Because if you tell your partner, no, I want it like this, some women are scared to speak up because you might just be perceived like, oh, and now you know too much, It means therefore you have a lot of experience. Where did you get this experience from?
Yeah.
Now you'll be perceived like as a loose woman. I use this a loose woman, and therefore you want to be like reserved and because you don't want to change the mindset of how your partner perceives you.
It's very important. Communication and how we understand sex is very important, because like I said, the way it's being portrayed, or the way we are now understanding sex, is it's a man's game. He can just come and and then he's done, and then she just has to receive whatever he is given, right? And that women are, it's all about what should you do to please your man, how should you look to please your man. Those are important, but what about you? What should you do to please yourself? What should you do to feel more sexual when you're having sex? Those are all important, and those conversations are somehow being had in different, settings. But at the same time, for example, culturally, you're being taught, or then you were being taught about, sexual pleasure as an individual and for your partner. But now, if you go to, the premarital sex sessions that maybe churches will have, it's all about please your man. And if something's not happening in their sex life, then somehow it's pointed to the woman. What are you not doing? Why are you not looking this? Or what are you not doing? And so women are just kind of being conditioned to be the receiving end. And when they want to express themselves, it's like you're saying, you look loose, you look what. And that is what we need to set, that sex is a two people coming together. It's about the union, and each one must bring something, and each one must also be able to give something to the other, because you are uniting. It's a 50-50 game. There's no, I bring and you receive whatever I have to give. And I think if someone is not willing to take what you may say, oh, can you please do this for me? I think it speaks more about their insecurity than your personal preferences. So also timing is important. Find a time where you can actually discuss these things and not be like, like, you don't even know how to do this, right? Especially for women, I think that we want our partners to just guess how we feel. We want them to just guess, like, you should just know where to touch me. You should just know what to do. And trust me, if there is a species on this earth that does not understand nonverbal communication, it's men. You've got to tell them what you want, and be okay with understanding that your sexuality is going to evolve. What you may have wanted at 21 years old and what you may want at 39 is going to be different, because your sexuality as a being is changing. Men peak in their sexuality at a younger age, women peak in their sexuality at a later age. And so you're going to be in waves, but then you need to find your sync. You can be in different, levels, but find your rhythm within yourself, and what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with, especially for things that you're not comfortable with. You've got to communicate and say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this because this happens. And again, find your rhythm, find the things that are specific to the two of you that you can sexualize, right? It's okay to sexualize certain things for the two of you, so that when one partner does it, okay, well, thank you. I see it, I'm going to overshare a little bit. But my husband has a deep voice, and that is something that I find very appealing. And he has learned how to sexualize his bass. He puts the bass on, and I know, okay, well, it's time to log off work, you know, to find things that are for the two of you. But that only comes with communication and allowing yourselves to be vulnerable and allowing to be told that you do this, but that doesn't really work for me. And I think that just being able to communicate will improve the sex life at that stage as well.
You know, as you were speaking, you touched on something that we actually overlook most of the times in terms of how we communicate with our partners and how we view each other as partners, and how the community, this is how the community influences some of the things that actually happen in our bedrooms. And you spoke of premarital counseling. So in my culture, I imagine that this would probably happen in a lot of cultures. In my culture, when you are about to get married, as a woman, there's a premarital counseling. So, but they don't call it that. In my culture, they call it uyala. So as a woman, uyayalwa. So even when you get to your in-laws, if you do something that your parents should have told you, or the women in your family should have told you about, they would be like, again, about Gialanga, with translation, it means, didn't they tell you?
Yeah. Like,
they tell you this in your family? And the contents of these conversations are actually influenced by the worldview of your particular family. And we've realized that some families are more inclined to use some other traditions. And in terms of my culture, we say when a man is asleep, you must wake him up, you know? You must wake him up. It's not only about his pleasure only. And you know, so.
And that's a note for the men, that it takes, in this day and age, it takes a lot for a woman to want to initiate sex. So when she does, get it together and just do it. Because when you say I'm tired, for a woman, it's like, oh, okay, so you don't find me pleasurable, or you know, it's only okay when you want it. So men, when you find her taking the courage to initiate sex, you have to be very sensitive to that. And if you really can't perform at that time, you have to lay it down very nicely. But then don't ever, you know, don't shoot her down, because it takes a lot out with all this conditioning. It takes a lot for women to initiate sex.
True. If we don't have any other questions, then our attendees, I think this would be the end of our session. Do we have any questions from our attendees before we close the session?
Maybe I can speak about herbs a little bit.
Hello. I would like maybe Wanga to share her details, because I think the sisters might need to contact her for a consultation. Maybe otherwise, maybe Nelly can share the details somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think you can share. You can, with the WhatsApp number and website, etc. You can do that.
Okay. All right.
Can I touch quickly on herbs?
Okay.
I think you should, just to close. But I'm going to go. I will leave you ladies. I need to take care of the family. I'll leave you ladies to talk about the herbs, just the two of you.
Okay.
Because it's going to go up.
It's not the two of us. We've got guests as well.
Excuse me?
Should I maybe go after Menzi, because he wanted to share on the spiritual aspect?
No.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
No, all I wanted to do is to read just a quick passage about Heteru. I'll just read it, because you've touched on all of this, but I'll just read this passage before I go. Heteru, we call it Nobuhle in Zulu, or the beautiful one. As goddess of fecundity, it's a deep English word, fecundity and nourishment, Heteru embodies the incubating womb for the life that has become renewed in Asar's realm. Coco will explain what does that mean. Within her sphere, all things flourish and progress through their natural cycle of embodiment. This spiritual power represents the rhythmic pulse of creation, and in her temples, the sound of sistra and drum emanated through the halls and chambers that celebrated her powers as consort of the sun. But basically, just to interpret what this means, it basically means that in ancient times, our ancestors would actually have rituals in celebration of all these things that we have spoken about. But it will not only be a celebration, but it will be a way for us to remember that, you know, you spoke about the rites of passage and all that. Our ancestors, and I think we can redo these things. That's why we always talk about resurrection. We even though we do not have our communities as intact as we used to be, but we can form these communities. They are being formed every day. There are people forming these communities every day. I'm meeting the sister, I think it's the sister from KY Astro. What was her name again? KY Astro. I just have her name saved as KY Astro. Yes, Tabitha. We are meeting her because she's basically saying that Ikhambi and many other different organizations that she's working with needs to get together and do work on the physical level. I know we do these online sessions, but we need to actually reconnect with the rites of passages. GEK is doing it, Afro-Savvy is doing it, other brothers and sisters are doing it. But it's very important to also do it at a very much community level where I stay. If my neighbor, what's the use of me knowing all these things that my neighbor does not know? My neighbor is suffering, but I have the cure. Or I'm suffering from something and my neighbor has the cure. So that's why we have these sessions. So the passage I was reading is simply explaining that during the times when we had our temples and our gatherings, we would remember the Great Mother. In KwaZulu, we have Nomhoi, where the young ladies are being taught how to, basically about sexuality, and Nomkhubulwane, where they are being taught about how to take care of the soil, how to take care of nature, how to bring rain, how to take care of themselves. Hygiene, the Nomkhubulwane rights are all about hygiene. You know, so I'm just saying these things we already have them. It's a matter of just reorganizing them so that we can be a much healthier society.
Agreed. Agreed.
Nkosi Wanga.
Nkosi Nkulu. Okay, so I'll just quickly go because I'm sure I've been talking forever. So I'll just quickly go through some of the herbs that can help with sexual health. I'm going to start first with ones that can be used by both men and women. So the first one is actually one from our product line, which is Tribulus. I'm not sure if you can see that. Tribulus is, I'm sure you've stepped on it. It's called puncture vine. It's like a vine. You step, it's got horrible thorns. It's most painful to step on, but it helps with increasing sperm quality and quantity. So it's also a fertility herb, also improves ovulation for women. It improves egg health for women. It improves sexual function. In the gym world, you actually find it as a supplement for physical strengthening. So people who like to gym a lot, they take Tribulus for physical endurance and whatnot. So it's a very good herb for both men and women in terms of improving their sexual function, sexual endurance, physical strength as well. If you have issues with any ovary issues for women, this is really good. If you're trying to conceive, both men and women, it helps reduce inflammation as well. If there's inflammatory, like, you know, blocked tubes or varicose cell for men, all those things, Tribulus is fantastic for that. Now it's under the Women Wellness brands, but for men, if there's any men watching and you want this, you can get in touch and I will have it in capsule form for you as well. Then we have Dong Quai. These are all my jars, don't mind. I have it in root and I always have liquid and solid form of my herbs. Dong Quai is really good for, it's a Chinese herb, and what it's said to revitalize qi. Qi is your vital force, your vital energy, your life force. And so Dong Quai is really good for that, for also improving pelvic health, pelvic circulation, if there's issues with blood circulation, This is really good for improving just you as a whole, but also for sexual function. Then before there was Viagra, there was this. It's called Gondolosi. That's the only name I know it for. And this is very popular in Malawi for sexual function. Men love to use this. So especially when there's lifestyle diseases involved, hypertension, etc., men really like to use this because it helps their with erectile dysfunction. It helps with, just blood circulation, regulates blood pressure as well, just sexual debility. It also is very good for the immune system. So both men and women can take it, but I like to prescribe it mainly for men as well. So any of these, I can have them prepared for you, capsule form, liquid form, whatever it is that you would like. Then we have ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is known as an adaptogen. An adaptogen helps to re-nourish your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands are responsible for producing the hormones, cortisol, for example, which is your stress hormone. So they help with your fight or flight response. And in this day and age, we're experiencing chronic stress, and which can lead to adrenal fatigue. So where you're just not feeling like having sex, testosterone levels are low, progesterone levels are low, etc. It's not a sexual improving herb, but it's in a systemic improving help. It helps to improve the stress response in your body. And obviously, if you have high stress levels, you are not going to be at your sexual peak. So it just kind of relieving systemic stress and improving your overall wellness. So that's ashwagandha. It's called an adaptogen. You can look up adaptogen herbs. Tribulus is also an adaptogen. And then we have Shatavari. This one is from India, and it is called Shatavari, and translating to she who has 100 husbands. Shatavari is very good for women when it comes to sexual health, fertility, and just womb health in general. Even when it comes to menstruation, etc., Shatavari is really, really good for that. It will help you, improve your libido, your sex drive. If you're having issues with that, then Shatavari is really good. Shatavari and ashwagandha will be really good. Which brings me to, so up to ashwagandha, all those can be used for men and women. Even Shatavari can be used for men. I would probably limit it more to women. And so we have then this product called Vitality. And this one is specifically for women's blend. Vitality has the Shatavari, it has ashwagandha, it has the cinnamon. All these improve systemic response to stress, improve your immunity. When women are having chronic stress, whether it's physical, chemical, emotional, digestive stress, your progesterone levels are going to be affected as you're producing more cortisol. Same thing for men. The more cortisol stress hormone you have, the lower testosterone is going to be, your testosterone levels are going to be. So you need adaptogens as a systemic way of improving your sexual health. So Vitality has all that. So that one is specifically for women to improve systemic health. And finally, my favorite, if you're not doing this, then you can have, this one is Yoni Central. I have Yoni Heal, Yoni Cleanse, but this one is specifically to improve sexual debility, sexual health. It's a Yoni steam product, and that one is, if you have issues with, dry vaginal dryness, etc., Yoni Central is the one for you. Fertility as well, that's the one, and it also plays our senses in terms of aromatherapy, all of that. That's the one, and that's it. You can go onto the website for those products to purchase, and any of the ones that are free form like this, then get in contact and I can have that packaged and sent to you. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Wanga. I wanted to add a comment from Alice. She said the scientific name for Gondolosi is Mondia White.
Yes. Mondia White.
Yes, I love this.
I don't want to use it because most people won't be like scientific name. So, but yes, that is Mondia White. There's a wind picking up. That is Mondia White. I don't know any other name, like whether like indigenous herbs in South Africa. I haven't come across it. But if I do, then I'll put it up somewhere. Yes.
You know,
Thank you,
just as
Alice.
just as you were speaking about ashwagandha, I actually remembered that last time when we spoke about ashwagandha during the last roundtable that we had, is that we mentioned that if you have autoimmune diseases, you should avoid ashwagandha. So I just want to remind people when you said that, it actually made me think, like, all these products that Wanga is talking about, don't just go to the shop and buy off the shelf. That is very, very dangerous. You need to consult. You need to speak to people like Wanga. You need to think of your health holistically. If you have other underlying illnesses, this may affect, yes, it may affect your treatment regime, and therefore you might want to consult first before. Self-medication is okay, but sometimes it's not. Just want to emphasize.
Like, for example, with Tribulus, if you're on hormonal contraceptives, don't take Tribulus, because Tribulus is very good at helping your hormone balance, and hormonal contraceptives are doing something else. You're going to disrupt that process. So if you're on any hormonal contraceptive or any hormonal replacement therapy, don't take Tribulus.
Thank you. You know, I actually always remind people that it's always good to speak to a professional, you know, or somebody who's well knowledge about these things. And as we speak about herbs, I always have this disclaimer: the information that we provide is not meant to replace the information that you may have gotten from your healer, so therefore, or your medical practitioner. It is mainly for informational purposes only, and it should be treated as such. And if you need to embark on a certain treatment regime, then therefore you need to consult, so that we look at what you're currently consuming versus what you will need, and we look at your health in holistic, whether or not a specific herb is suitable for you.
And in my case, I do have consultations, like where you paid consultation, but I also offer wellness chats, and those are completely free. It's just a few minutes. I'll give you you book an appointment with me, and I'll give you a call, and then I can actually help you guide. I can help guide you into, you know, recommended treatment process, or which doctor I think is best for you to see, which type of healer, or what herbs, or any. So you're not necessarily having a consultation with me, but I'm just helping with the guidance process, because some people just don't even know where to start. And that information is, if you go to womanwellness.com, woman with a B, so WOMB, like womb, womanwellness.com. You'll be able to find all the services and some of the products and all of that. But if you're not sure where to start and you saw me talk about any of these herbs, you can book a free wellness chat, and then I can get you, you know, at least guide you in which direction is best for you.
I like that. And I think more and more people, we need to start having these conversations, that you can't just take medication simply because it was prescribed for Wanga and think that it will work for you. You are not the same beings, and therefore you will not be treated the same way. With that being said, I will ask Wanga to give me pictures of all the products that she just posted. She's just showed us, and I will post these on our socials. And I'm going to ask her to just give a brief description of all of these products. A brief description.
For the products, like our branded ones, you can simply go to the website, and there is a lot. I took the time to put a lot of detail about each product, each ingredient in the product. So you can go to that, and you will find that all the ones that I did mention, like the Dongquai, if you go to our Iron Woman product, you'll find description about Dongquai. But I'll work with Nelly, and we'll sort that out.
Tamak. With that being said, where do people find you?
The easiest place would be either on the website to book wellness chat or a consultation. If you already know exactly what you need me to help you with, you can book a consultation there. It's under shop. You go to shop, and then you'll see shop products, shop consultation, or shop coaching. book a consultation, shop consultation, and then you can book a consultation, or you go to services and you'll find a wellness chat. So you can do that, or you can WhatsApp me, Nelly. You're welcome to put that number there. WhatsApp, I think I'm probably midway quicker than emails. So the third one would be emails. So if you want to probably get a hold of me faster, is WhatsApp. Just leave a drop. I'd hardly answer calls because I'm either in consultation or so I may not answer a call, but I will respond to a message. So you can leave a message, and I think the WhatsApp is probably the quickest.
So I think you will provide us with the contact detail card with your branding. Yeah, so we will post that on our socials if you want to get hold of Wanga. With that being said, us as Ikhambi, where you find us is at Ikhambi Natural Healing, on all our socials, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just a reminder that the session will not be posted on our Facebook, and so therefore, if you want to see the recording, you will have to go to our YouTube channel just to view it. This is for avoiding our page being shut down by Facebook due to community rules. Where else? YouTube, you can put an age restriction, but in Facebook you can't. So therefore, we will only be posting the session on our YouTube page. So that's where you'll find that Ikhambi Natural Healing in all our socials. And if you want to send us an email, it's info@ikhambinaturalhealing.coza or ikhambihealing@gmail.com. So if you want to pop us a message, if you are unsure about certain things, even if you want Wanga's details and maybe you're not on any of the socials, you can just pop us an email and we'll send the information to you. Yes, we do respond to inboxes in all our socials, so you can just drop us in inbox and we will give you the contact details if you may have missed something. With that being said, I would like to firstly thank everybody who joined for the session. Thank you for holding space with us. Thank you for your contributions and everything the questions and everything. We really, really appreciate this. This is an interactive platform. We really do encourage people to communicate with us and share the information that we have. We learn every day, and every day you will learn something new from somebody else. I would also like to thank our guest, Wanga. Thank you so much. I look forward to potentially having more sessions, similar to these. We really need to start talking about these things and not just talk about them in our small circles, and we really need to start sharing the information with the community as a whole. We grow with each other. We can't leave certain people behind. Let's grow together as a community. And with that being said, Samako, love and light, beloveds.
Thank you very much for having me.
Samako Koko, thank you for holding space with us. Bye.